We are live. SBR closing line show rivalry weekend. Great Saturday to be a sports bettor. Great Saturday to be a college football fan. We got the panel on down in the state of Florida. We got Big Ragoo. Florida State it out. We got the underdogs. So they got a chance here, Big Ragoo.
Man, I tell you what, if you don't, this is the love-hate relationship time of the year, and now you got to show a little love. So no matter what the circumstances are, we gotta jump on the team's back, and hopefully they could show a little competitiveness today. You know, I'll drop a few dollars on them just for fun. You know, just it's rivalry week, and that's what college football is all about.
Yeah, and they're playing hard for the interim coach there. So who knows?
Yep.
Chance. They might have it there, the Seminoles and Big Ragoo down in the state of Florida. Follow them on Twitter at Big Ragoo62. We also got Ian Cameron at Babano on Twitter. New look with the haircut, looking good. Rivalry Saturday, Ian. Welcome in, buddy.
Yeah, rivalry Saturday, and you're going to hear a bunch of people saying this team's got to win. It's a must-win game. Well, must-win doesn't equal will win. You're going to see a bunch of teams needing that sixth win for bowl eligibility. There's a reason that on the final full week of the regular season, they still need that sixth win for the bowl eligibility. They're not all that good. You just can't bet a team simply because they need it.
Good point there, Ian. Follow him on Twitter at Babano. And last, certainly not least, DJ Big Boss in the state of California, where I'm going to from as well. So doubling up here in the state of California. And right before we started, DJ Big Boss, you were talking about that as well, about some teams' motivation, big factor here. Welcome in, man. Happy Saturday morning to you.
Happy Saturday morning. What up, though, to everybody in the chat? And, you know, usually I have something positive to say each Saturday morning because I feel good going into it. But all these games we didn't play early in the week, I'm pissed, Drew. These picks is just not landing in my lap where I want them, Drew. This is ridiculous on some of the stuff that goes on the field, these backdoor covers, all this kind of stuff, these overs that should have been unders, you know. And the funny part is, you know, I wouldn't take none of the bets back, you know, after it's all said and done because, you know, I capped them all away. It's just, you know, things happen. And, you know, you got to roll with the punches. I've been having a good year this year. I knew I would get a hiccup, you know, again somewhere. And these last 2 weeks have been horrible for me, Drew. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do to get off this monkey off my back.
Well,
Pick a few winners.
Knows what you're going through, man.
Yep, everybody goes through it. Yeah.
I just told him pick a few winners, everything goes away.
Yeah, like Sonny Vegas says, it's not a problem until you lose it, you know?
There it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I like that one as well. That's a good one, guys. And we got Dom Ricci in the house as well. Welcome in, Dom. We got Paco Healy, Greg in the house as well. Ronnie, welcome in, guys. Let us know what you're betting and why. Please smash the like button as well. The schedule is to go Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Auburn in the Iron Bowl there, and then just kind of open it up. Obviously, a huge Saturday card here, so we're going to hit on as many games as possible, and then best bets as well. So we can start it off here. Ohio State, Michigan, early start, guys. The 9 a.m. Pacific kicks here, 12 noon Eastern. It gets off to a hot start in rivalry week, so only less than 50 minutes away. And Ian, we're seeing -8 all the way to -9.5. Some opinion in this marketplace, depending what sports book you're going off of. Talking Ohio State, Michigan here, 52.5. I don't know, man. The underdog at home. I'm thinking this is a little bit too many points, although, you know, Ohio State, the eye test, I think you can make the argument they are the best team in the country. This is a tough one, early start. You interested in getting involved with the Buckeyes and Wolverines here, Ian?
Yeah, well, if you're going to look at last week's game against Penn State, you could either look at it glass half empty or glass half full. The glass half empty is, from an Ohio State standpoint, you finally didn't cover a number last week against Penn State. You just did enough to get by. The glass half full with Ohio State going into this game is, well, you turned it over, I think, on 2 or 3 consecutive possessions in the second half, which is really essentially what let Penn State back into that game last week against the Nittany Lions. And maybe if you don't have those turnovers, you win that thing going away and cover that big number. So it's really that two schools of thought there with that game. The thing that look, Michigan's A game can have them right in this game from start to finish. They have had their best football of the season the last several weeks. There's no question that this Michigan team, Josh Gaddis, the offensive coordinator, and Harbaugh to a lesser extent, promised an electrifying, explosive offense. We didn't see it, it seemed, for the first couple of months. Well, we've seen it the last few weeks. I mean, they're stretching the field a little bit more. They still run the ball a lot, but they're stretching the field with Shea Patterson's arm. throwing the football a lot more than they did early in the season? Can they make some damage against Ohio State's defense? I mean, Ohio State's defense last week played pretty good against Penn State. Penn State's most of their points, most of their drives came off those turnovers and shorter fields. So that remains to be seen. It's really tough. This is one of the toughest. It's a great game. I can't wait to watch. But from a betting perspective, it's really tough because I still think there's a tax to Ohio State. I mean, this number had Michigan as a favorite before the season began. Preseason line had Michigan favored in this game. Now they're a 9-point home underdog in this one. So there's a tax on Ohio State. But look, I've been here, done this with backing Michigan in big games. He's not big game Jim Harbaugh. He hasn't been here with Michigan. He's been annihilated time and time again by Ohio State. Now, I get it. Those were Urban Meyer Ohio State teams. This is Ryan Day now, but I still worry. This is almost like a Jim Harbaugh referendum game for the Michigan Wolverines here today, because they know if they win today, maybe this guy somehow saves his job still and he's back next year. That's a very real possibility that Jim Harbaugh's back in the maize and blue next year if they pull off this win. But it's a big if. He's had no success, none, zero whatsoever against Ohio State in the past. And this is probably the best Ohio State team he's faced throughout that time. So I can't make heads or tails of it. Michigan is playing really, really good ball right now. And if they bring that kind of game today and don't turn the football over, they could begin this from start to finish. But I don't know. Harbaugh's track record against Ohio State's miserable. And it's miserable enough that I can't trust taking the Wolverines. I lean Michigan, but just not going to do it.
Yeah, it's 62-39 last year. You're right, Ian. They have been up against it. Ohio State won 7 straight versus Michigan and DJ Big Boss. I mean, 2 big schools here in the Big Ten, arguably the biggest game of the day. What are you thinking here with the Buckeyes and Wolverines?
Hey, I'm thinking I need to get back to some of my old values that I had towards the beginning of the season and hop in the smoke today in this game right here. I really like Ohio State. I think, people can say this, say that, kind of put it together. I don't think you can really have a real good cover on this game right here. I think these Ohio State team is so explosive. The defense is so aggressive. This is the best team all around that Michigan has faced this year. And we know the woes that Michigan been through. They caught the loss to Wisconsin. They also caught the loss to Penn State. Now, this Ohio State team, much more physical, much more faster. So this is the last game of the season, and they're facing the best offense that they faced all season. I think this brings back some of their old ways that we seen earlier in the season. We just didn't think Michigan was the team, that we thought they were going to be. And it proves it today in this game. Ohio State, they one of those teams that want to get after you. They want to blow you out. They wanted to look bad for Harbaugh. They would love to hold the crown, the one that got Harbaugh fired or something like that. So I'm going to back Ohio State today, minus the points, and let's hope they run the scoreboard up.
All right, good stuff, DJ Big Boss. We got some guys in the chat here. Jason Kelly saying Ohio State team total over 30 seems like the play. I could see Ohio State having some success offensively. We got Anthony saying everyone's saying this game has a lot of pressure for Harbaugh, but I feel like there's just as much pressure for Ohio State coach. Imagine first coach to lose to Harbaugh in a big game. That is a good point on the other side there. And Anthony saying Meyer effect is real. Without him, they don't beat Michigan. Interesting takes there from the chat box, Big Ragoo. I'll tell you this, about Ohio State. Their ATS record is kind of an interesting case study in itself. Week 1, they got out to that huge lead against FAU, and then actually Lane Kiffin and company slipped through the back door. They lost that ATS and then went on that huge run cashing tickets. And then actually the last 2 games have lost to Penn State and Rutgers. I'm talking against the spread here. So is the price, in your opinion, Big Ragoo, kind of catching up with Ohio State, and laying this many points in the big house is kind of a question mark?
Yeah, that's a great point on the market's catching up with this team as far as that goes, against the number. And that's what we're talking about, the numbers today. So historically, if you look at the matchups with these 2 schools, it just doesn't go back to Harbaugh. It goes way back. Like I think the last 15 out of 16, Ohio State's dominated the series that long back. But in today's market, we're talking Harbaugh not being able to win a big game, of course, and getting off to the slow start early in the season. And now that offense has come to fruition in a lot of different ways. And they've always been solid defensively speaking. Michigan has played some solid games. They have played against lesser. They've had lesser teams play up in that level with them too. So to answer your question, as far as the number goes, I usually have a rule with Michigan is they're usually not a good favorite team, but they're a pretty good dog team. And playing in the big house today with things clicking their way, I would definitely have a strong lean taking the points in this game just for that fact, the way that Michigan's kind of running their offense. And maybe there's a little kink in the OSU's offense here just a little bit, with like Ian was saying with the turnovers, maybe there's suspect, of not taking care of football. Maybe they're thinking ahead, so to speak. Maybe they're looking ahead for the big game next, when they got to play the possibly matching up against Minnesota later on. So, but I know they want to beat Michigan. That's like their number one goal when the season starts. So the long-winded answer, I'm going to probably lean with Michigan taking the points.
All right, liking the underdog as well. I think I lean with you just because of the pricing on Ohio State. Guys, we got the Iron Bowl. Then we're going to open it up. We got money line underdogs and best bets coming up. If you could smash the like button, it does help us. Also share on any social media networks. We do appreciate that. Dom in the house. Not Flush Allen, welcome in, buddy. So a bunch of people. Henry John, welcome in. Buck Nasty, Reese. What is up, guys? We got the Iron Bowl up next. We got Alabama and Auburn. This one in Jordan-Hare, 3:30 Eastern on CBS. Total of 50. We're seeing the Crimson Tide. It has been bouncing around. We've seen different numbers throughout the week, seeing pretty much 3.5s right now. Ian, come back to you first, man. This is obviously a big one here in the state of Alabama. We got Auburn. A 3-loss team, yes, but that is a heck of a 3-loss team, and Alabama knocking on the door of the playoffs again here. Ian, what are you thinking? Alabama versus Auburn.
Well, it's going to be interesting because obviously we know this is going to be a big-time proving ground of sorts for Mac Jones, the sophomore quarterback here for Alabama, who's had to take over for Tua Tagovailoa. We'll basically have to see if he can handle it right now for this Alabama team, because I know he's looked impressive in limited action, Mac Jones. There's no question. You got to like the way the kid's played. But, does Western Carolina playing a patsy like that get you ready for the Auburn defense in this game? I'm not so sure about that. So to me, unfortunately, they're two big games, and I don't have much on them from a betting standpoint. I didn't bet either one. I'll say this right now. I'm leery of going against Alabama. I really am. Bo Nix, to me, has been a pedestrian quarterback this year, and against some of the better teams, the better SEC squads, better defenses. And I know this is not vintage Alabama defense. There's no question. This is an Alabama defense that's not quite as good as it's been in years past. But I haven't seen enough from Bo Nix to say, boy, I'm confident going with him and Auburn in this game, even though this game is at Jordan-Hare, even though they are getting 3.5 points in this game. But on the flip side, the counterpoint to that is Mac Jones against by far the best defense he's faced, and he's got to do it on the road here. That's not going to be an easy task. The little voice inside my head says don't go against Alabama here, but there's no way I'm laying 3.5 with Mac Jones in a proving ground against a good defense on the road. So I could see this going either way. I think it's a case to be made for both teams, but current numbers right where it should be. We'll see how good Mac Jones is today. I think if he plays well, Alabama wins and covers because I think their defense can contain Bo Nix a little bit. But on the flip side, if he's worn down by that Auburn defense, they get that pressure and they force Mac Jones into mistakes, Auburn can absolutely win this football game outright. So it's good counterpoint you can make in this game. I passed on the game. I would lean under the total just a little bit, 50. I could see Nick Saban. Now, Nick Saban knows with Tua there, we're going to open it up, be explosive, maybe play at some pace. I don't think he's going to do that with Mac Jones. I think he's going to rely on the run game. Mac Jones put him in manageable down and distance situations. We know Auburn's not a team that lights up the scoreboard a ton, rely on the defense. So if I'm betting this game totals wise, I'd lean to the under.
Ian, I thought that was a great breakdown, man. I mean, this is a very tricky handicap, a very difficult handicap. I mean, and I like what you said there about the little voice inside you, like be careful going here against Nick Saban. I kind of feel that too, man, because part of me is thinking, man, with Mac Jones, a backup quarterback, you couldn't draw it up any tougher going up against this defensive line, this overall defense in Jordan-Hare for your first real competitive road start. That is a difficult ask. Plus the fact you brought up the Alabama defense isn't necessarily up to the caliber that Alabama defenses have been in the past. I think the best unit on the field is Auburn's defense. But
and one more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing, Drew. Another thing that concerns me and why early in the week I'm saying, think we got to maybe lay it with Alabama here, don't we? But as the week went on, I'm thinking to myself, and I can't get the game out of my mind. Alabama coming out in the first half against LSU in a huge game and laying an absolute egg. They were horrible in that first half. They were not ready to play that football game. Maybe it's different today. I can't get that vision out of my head. The big game against LSU, and Alabama was putrid in that game. Now, I know it's a totally different animal. It's a much weaker offense you're facing here, but that's something I can't get out of my head. Nick Saban's not supposed to get his teeth kicked in the first half of a big game like that. It happened against LSU. We'll see if he can turn it around today and have better results.
Good stuff, Ian. And Big Ragoo, we're talking here about Nick Saban, but on the other hand, Gus Malzahn, he gets a lot of kind of fireworks, but he is the only active SEC coach to have beaten Nick Saban twice. So I don't know, how much do you think that comes in here with actually Gus Malzahn maybe having something up his sleeve here? And what's your overall thoughts, man, Alabama versus Auburn?
I'm laughing because you took the words right out of my mouth. That was going to be my opening comment. But for the most part, there's a couple of things underlying in that regard, too, because what Malzahn is going to do with that offense, they need to run the ball, number one, because like Ian said, they are vulnerable on the defensive side. They're very young. They have some miscues on the defense. LSU exposed a lot of that. LSU is a different animal in itself. But anyways, they have had some tough looks. And then with the kid going on the road, making his first road start, the roles kind of flipped here because we were saying that about Knicks all year, going on the road against a tougher opponent. So now the role flipped here, and they are playing in Jordan-Hare. And I agree with you that the defensive unit on Auburn is probably the best unit on the field. So all indicators to me, the experience on the side of Bama for the big game, play. But they're not. It's not the same Bama team we're talking here. We're talking a different environment. We're talking different players. And I have another strong lean in this game. I would say Auburn money line. If I was going to get involved in this game, I would be taking Auburn on the money line to give them a lot of different looks on the offense in the run formation. With Malzahn's going to mix up those looks, and they're going to try to confuse that young defense, and they'll probably run the ball a lot. And that's their key to winning the game is, having success running the ball and, stopping, Bama and making the kid make some mistakes on the other side. So if they can just take care of the ball and play mistake-free football, then Bama probably come away with the win. But I have a strong lean on Auburn money line.
All right, liking the War Eagle on the money line there, Big Ragoo. And Auburn has won 2 of the last 3 here against Alabama in Jordan-Hare Stadium. And that does go back to the kick 6, which is called from Rob Bramford. May he rest in peace. But DJ Big Boss, man, finishes off here. What do you got in conclusion for the Iron Bowl?
This is not one of the games that I personally want to get involved with, but I see it a few ways. If you're looking on the Alabama side, then you're looking at, hey, here's an opportunity. Everybody thinking that we're down right now, we get a chance to go back. You're looking at I could catch my favorite team at a small price, but like Big Ragoo said, this is not the same Alabama team that we've been looking at for the past few years. I mean, this team is without a doubt, got a couple holes on the boat right now, and Saban is the guy to fill it and keep on going, and you can't doubt that. Now on the other side of the fence, you got Auburn. They got you like, we got you right in the spot that we want to get you, and now we're going to hit you, So Auburn, in that respect, they could take advantage of Alabama, believe it or not. They're at home in this one. They have very good defense. Alabama is suffering on offense. They're going to have to resort to doing some things a little different, which could be a surprise, and the game go the whole other way for Alabama. But at the same time, they can continue to struggle, and Auburn can really stick it to them. And like Big Ragoo said, Auburn can run away on the money line. But in the way Ian said, I think the best opportunity in this game that shows most value is the under, because you're looking at the under in this situation. Here you got 2 teams that they total time of possession is pretty good, around 30. Auburn runs the ball about 45 attempts per game, so that's going to be credited to the under as well. And then you got an Alabama team that don't really have a choice but to run the ball a little bit. But Saban could surprise us. You know, he could hop back there and try a few things. If it works, he'll probably go with it. If not, he'll go right back to the running game. So I think the under is live in this game. It's going to be a slugfest right here, a SEC showdown, and all that good stuff. And maybe we get like a 24-10 or something like that.
Okay, 24-10, something like that in Jordan-Hare today. And guys, we're opening it up here to anything really on the card, money line underdogs, anything you got, and then we'll have best bets as well. We got Jason Kelly asking about Georgia's offense, if they were just having trouble going up against good defenses against Georgia Tech. You think they'll be able to open it up? Also, Black Rogue saying Alabama's the side to jump on it. So like in the Crimson Tide, maybe -3.5 here. Talking about the Auburn side here, guys. They are 8-3 straight up. Also 8-3 ATS. They've been cashing some tickets this year, and mainly behind that defense. Like we were talking, this is a defense that has not let up more than 24 points all year long. Interesting stat here, guys. The Westgate, they do the look ahead lines for the big games. They had this game, Alabama -17 back in September. So this is a huge difference from back then, with that Alabama loss. And also you can make the argument, Mac Jones, not many starts, but he could be the better quarterback as well. That's what's really kind of making me pump the brakes here. But I do like Auburn just because of their losses, at Florida, at LSU by 3 points, at LSU and against Georgia. Those are 3 quality losses. So my overall record betting on Auburn is well below 40% when Cam Newton isn't on the roster. So keep that in mind. But I have bet Auburn here. I thought I'd share that. I just think the better defense at home catching the points might be the side. But big Ragoo, man, kind of open it up here. We got Minnesota, Wisconsin, another big game. Talking about DJ Big Boss, holes in the boat, maybe rowing the boat there. But any games you wanted to bring off the bat and open mic?
I want to look at a real stupid game here, which probably won't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. But I'll talk about this Navy and Houston game here for a minute. Okay. Now, Navy, they're a top 25 team. We know what they do. They run the triple option. And Houston, they've had their share of offensive woes. And, execution has been they lost Eric King early in the season. He left. And then the coach's son was the quarterback. But I got an interesting look here in this game. Now, Navy, when they play on the road, they're like 1-12 straight up on the road. And they're probably yielding about a 7-point margin either way. In their victories, their average win is like by 7 points roughly. And then Houston, usually their margin is like +7 on their side. So I think this is a pretty good matchup. Houston's defense, I think they should be able to handle Navy's offense as far as, putting the run in check. But I think longer term, times of possession, we know Navy's going to probably eat clock here. And I'm not interested in getting involved in the total, but I kind of like Houston. I think it's a little bit of an overlay in the line, 8.5 points. It's probably a scary type of bet, but I like it. It's one of my plays that I'm going to put in today. I'm going to be on Houston +8.5 at home against I just like that stat where Navy has, a little bit of road struggles, and Houston, this is going to be their final game of the season. And this is going to be hopefully a springboard game for them going forward for Holgerson and company. And, as he gets more into the recruiting aspects of things, maybe this would be a good look for him to maybe walk away with a victory against a ranked team. So I'm going to be on Houston +8.5.
Yeah, big Ragoo. I'll tell you, Houston has not quit on the season. I learned that the hard way when they beat Tulsa. But so that should bode well for practice this week against the triple option. One thing to put in your back pocket there with Houston. So good stuff there, like in Houston. DJ Big Boss, is there a game you wanted to bring up?
I like to look over here with the UNLV and Nevada game. This game last year, we had a really good Nevada team that, thought they had this one locked down. There's a little Cannon Trophy in this one. It goes from team to team. And UNLV snuck in there and got on them last year. So it's a big revenge spot for Nevada. They're at home. Lines opened up at 7.5. I see it's in some places it went down to 6.5 on this one. I think under a touchdown in a rival game with the home team is a nice spot to be. You got the UNLV team who coach may be walking out the door. You know, we might even get an announcement today or after the game, something like that. I mean, they tried it with this guy. I think it's been like 5 years with him, and he's just getting, you know, same results every year. So I think he's definitely on the hot seat. And Nevada, they trying to, you know, let me say, freshen up their record right here, make it look nice on the way out. The year that they didn't have the year they thought they were going to have this year, but they could probably finish nice here, get a bowl game, and get that trophy back where they know it belongs in Nevada.
Okay, look at it. Battle for the Cannon, something of that nature. That's talked a lot in Las Vegas. It's 7-point spread now. And yeah, I believe Tony Sanchez was told that he will not retain the job for next year.
Yeah.
Not 100% sure on that. It was kind of a weird situation overall, and not sure what you have on that and any other games you wanted to bring up, man.
Yeah, I mean, maybe people are seeing in that game, it's take the underdog in a rivalry game, and UNLV beat them last year, but I don't want this dog. I mean, the coach is out. Players know it. You're not going bowling. Nevada wants to make amends, and the Nevada quotes are they want this one badly and win this battle for the Fremont Cannon, as they call it, after losing it last year against UNLV. So I don't want this underdog. There's a bunch of games where the line is moving in a direction that has me scratching my head. It's like, what are people seeing here? UNLV is one of them. Here's another one that I can't believe this one. And this is one of those games, and it's an early game, noon Eastern. You got to just scratch your head and, you know, say, why is the line moving in this direction? You got to trust your handicap in situations like this. Don't be spooked. Don't be worried about line moves against you. They're going to happen. A lot of them are wrong. Let's make the point of that. All line moves, a lot of them are wrong, and I think this one's dead wrong. Who is betting the Tulsa Golden Hurricane up from -5 to -7 right now against East Carolina? Tulsa's this is as meaningless a finale as you could ask for. They're on the road. They're not going bowling. They've had a bunch of big games at home in a row, Houston, SMU, and they have just lost one close game after another all year, this Tulsa team. This Tulsa team could honestly be a 7, 8, 9-win team. They lost so many close games against good teams. I saw them finally hit the wall mentally last week against Houston. After they did get the one win against a good team. That was UCF, but last week against Houston, they fell flat. It was a very lethargic, bad game at home against a mediocre Houston team where, you know, obviously the quarterback suspended, all the turmoil that program's had this year, and Tulsa loses at home to them. Now they got to go on the road, you know, this 3-win team, not going bowling, and lay a touchdown against East Carolina. And East Carolina is still battling every week. They're still trying. Holton Ahlers is getting better each week at the quarterback position. They have the offense, I think, to stay close. Yeah, now you can get 7 with East Carolina. I think East Carolina is definitely the side there in that game against Tulsa. I just don't know what Tulsa brings to the table. I don't know what Syracuse brings to the table against Wake. Finally, the Wake money's coming in. I would lay it with Wake. I'd also play the over in that game. Syracuse has no defense, all right? They gave up, 60 points or almost that much to Louisville last week. They've quit on the defensive side of the football. That's bad news against Jamie Newman and that Wake Forest offense. They should be able to score 40, 50 at least on this Syracuse. And it's worth noting, too, 2 of the fastest tempo teams in college football, Wake Forest and Syracuse, plays per game. They snap the ball quickly. So I like Wake, the side there, and the over in that game. The Paul Bunyan's battle for Paul Bunyan's axe. I believe that's what Wisconsin and Minnesota is. That Big Ten showdown. Winner in the Big Ten championship game. Winner wins that division and is in the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State. I'm going to make – I believe in P.J. Fleck in big games. I really like Minnesota at home. I think if it was in Madison, I'd feel differently. But the fact they get this game at home, where they already beat Penn State this year, I think that's a good sign for Minnesota. Other than one bad half against Iowa, this has been a really good football team this year. I think they get up for the game here against Wisconsin here, play well. And there's something that's actually a little bit interesting here is that Wisconsin's offensive line, we think about how big it is. Minnesota's got a very big defensive front. They might be able to go toe-to-toe with that Wisconsin offensive line. So I think Minnesota +3, you can get them. I would take the +3 just for security in case it's a field goal game. But I think the Gophers definitely have a chance to win that one, in my opinion. And one more that I'm going to throw out there. Actually, the best bet, I'll wait till the end for that. But one more. This is situational handicapping 101, and it's worth mentioning this game. It's the late game. It's the bailout special, as Drew likes to say, degenerate special. Army and Hawaii. This is handicapping 101. Can we really trust Hawaii to put emphasis into this game tonight? They had the game of their season last week against San Diego State. A game that, with that win, got them into the Mountain West Championship game against Boise next week. It's a huge deal for the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors program. They're back in prominence. They really wanted to get to that Mountain West title game. Now they're there. They celebrated. You saw them after that win against the Aztecs last week. They acted like they won the national championship. Rolovich happy. The team just in ecstasy. And now, with that game now next week against Boise for the Mountain West crown, can we trust Hawaii to have focus and the prep time needed to get ready for Army and the triple option? I'm not so sure. This is a difficult spot for Hawaii here. You got to somehow turn around after that big win last week, prepare for a difficult Army triple option offense. I know Army's been a disappointment this year. There's no question. They've been an underachieving team, but I think they can get to 6 wins if they win tonight in Hawaii to get to a bowl game. I think that matters for this service academy. These kids are going to come ready to play, and I just don't know if mentally Hawaii's going to be locked into this football game with the big Mountain West Championship next week against Boise. So I think Army plus the points on the island tonight is definitely a situational side that's worth a look.
Ian, I love that you brought that game up. Not only because it's a degenerate special, yes, and I feel like I gotta bet it, man. It's always a fun one to bet. But because I like this one as well, man. And you bring up the fact, Hawaii getting patted on the back. They're going to, I believe, their first ever Mountain West Championship game here. It's been a heck of a season for the Rainbow Warriors. I'm kind of waving the palm frond, rooting for them as a fan. But in this game, man, I can't help it. When I broke it down, I bet Army as well. Also, the fact Army's coming off of a bye, making the trip. Whenever military institutes are making a road game, tough trip, I kind of don't factor it in as much as, say, a regular college football team. I think that they're more in line to do well in that situation, but they get a bye to prepare here. Plus the fact the Hawaii defense, when going up against option principal offenses, has not performed well. Air Force smoked them, and teams like New Mexico, who's not necessarily running the triple option, but option style offense, and not very good, went for north of 30 points as well. I think Army's actually going to have success here offensively, Ian.
And that's the thing. Hawaii's run defense isn't very good to begin with. And you got to prep for this difficult triple option with the big game. After that huge win last week and with the Mountain West title game on deck, I don't expect Hawaii's A game, and I think it'll show tonight.
Yeah, and they're in the Mountain West Championship game. Really, regardless, if they lose this game, they're still there, and that should be a fun one to watch.
And that's because, Drew, this is a non-conference game, so it won't count against their conference record. That's why they've already locked up that Mountain West title game spot. Yep.
Exactly. Good point there, Ian. And guys, we got best bets coming up, money line underdogs as well. But of course, a lot of games here. And on the late night specials, we got Arizona State. It's a good late night action and a good start action in terms of 9 a.m. Pacific kicks. We got Louisville, Kentucky. That's kind of an interesting one under the radar, seeing 3.5 here. The Wildcats at home. I actually should shop around because there are some 3 flats as well. Wyoming Air Force. We were just talking about Air Force, seeing Air Force minus 13 versus Wyoming. I could see Craig Bull having success defending the option. I kind of like the Wyoming Cowboys there, plus the big number. Ian, I know Wyoming's a team you've kind of had an eye on all season. Do you have any look there, Wyoming versus Air Force?
Yeah, I lean to Wyoming, and actually you should let our boy DJ Big Boss speak on that game, because I was talking to him earlier this week on Betting with the Bag, and that was in his wheelhouse, that Wyoming Air Force game, and I think he's in agreement with you, Drew. Wyoming potentially a very live underdog there. Take it away, DJ.
Hey, I'm absolutely. I might as well jump into my best bet because that's my best bet right there. And as I lined up all my Mountain West things, the only thing that really jumped off the paper at me, I think the line is outrageous. But I know that Air Force been getting a lot of value all year. They really like the line setters, at least. They really like the Air Force team. They've been spot on with them too, because last week I think they had them minus 22, and it ended right on the nail with that one too. But this Wyoming team. This line is sliding even more on in favor of Air Force. I see some 12s out there and stuff, but I think getting the points with such a physical team that can really play defense at a high level And I mean, they do have their woes on offense, and you can look at Tyler Vanderwall as saying, okay, maybe this guy just don't got it. He only threw 1 touchdown and he's threw 3 interceptions. Well, he's a young guy. He's fitting into the system. The quarterback at Wyoming is more of a facilitator anyhow. So, if he doesn't have to make those big throws, then you don't put him in harm's way, basically. So if the defense can get on the field and take care of Air Force option, and if you shut the option down, and the key to Air Force, which I've been watching since early in the year, is that they could throw a little better than they have in a long time. So in this case right here, they playing against a defense that's not going to be an option. If they're going to go run over Wyoming, they're going to have to do it on the ground. Do you think this team is going to run over Wyoming, a very physical team with a very physical front on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, with the Air Force team that are particularly undersized? Military players are a little bit undersized. They're very disciplined. They do small things very well, and this is kind of like dumbing down everything for Wyoming defensive wise. They play teams like Colorado State with complex offenses and stuff. If they know they got to just go in the game, shut down the option, tighten up the gaps in the inside, and look for a couple passes on 3rd and long, they might be able to walk away with the victory right here. But this is my best bet. Give me all them points. 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 And I'll just ride with it. If I done lost worse already for the week. So if they hit me again, that's what's happening. But that's my best bet right there. Wyoming plus the points.
You're due, DJ Big Boss. You're due, man. We also got Ronnie in the chat box saying 35 kilometer miles wind. He's using kilometers. Must be international.
Out.
Yeah, I'm not really sure on that. Not too versed, but there should be some wind here with Wyoming Air Force. Do you have any opinion on the total of 41.5 here?
I'm always tended to take unders, especially with the wind like that. This is a spot my guy Noli knows. I haven't talked to him today, but he's probably all over it. But 41 rival week. These are the kind of mistakes I've been making in the last 2-3 days this week, and you jump on something that looks like a golden under right there, and all it takes is the first half, a couple missed tackles, couple long runs, and now we're looking at a dead over game. So I shied away from the total on that one. I see way much more value with taking the points with Wyoming than to play around with the total and guess on what we're gonna get out of the weather.
Okay. Yeah, good stuff there, DJ Big Boss. And Ian, also in the Wyoming Army game, one thing at least I forgot to throw out there, I believe there's 20-mile-an-hour wind projected on the island tonight. So that should help the Army side as well. Big Ragoo, throw it over to you, man. Any other games you wanted to throw out there? Any money line underdogs? Also, I guess we're coming up to the end here and getting close to Ohio State, Michigan kicking off. So if you want to throw it as well.
I'm gonna stay with the Auburn as my money line underdog play today, and I'll jump into my best bet. So I got 2 plays that I really like, but I'm gonna pick one of them as the best bet. I like Charlotte today, playing at Old D. Old D is they lost their last 10. They're ranked in the bottom, one of the bottom teams on offense. Defensively, they're a hot mess. Charlotte, we know, has had some offensive struggles of late, but I think this is a get-right game for them. They're still averaging 30 points a game, and I think it's a easy double-digit win. I think they're giving up 9.5, 10 points. I think they win by 2 or 3 scores easily in that game. And then another game I really like, and this is probably going to be my play of the day, is Utah State versus New Mexico. I like Utah State. They've had some road struggles, but they're playing for a lot too. They're trying to get a little bit more of an improvement in the bowl season. They got 6 wins early qualified, but 7 wins would set this team up really, really nice. I think they're going to get a pretty good effort from Gerald Bright running the ball. He's about a couple yards away from 2,000-yard career at Utah State, and then also the quarterback. He's looking at jumping on in the high-ranking all-time quarterback rankings over there. So you're looking at I think we're looking at 11 points here with this team, 12 points. So I like Utah State. New Mexico really doesn't have a whole lot going, and this is probably Bob Davies' last game also. So I look for Utah State to have a big game against New Mexico today.
Big Ragoo, I'm 100% with you on both of these handicaps. I mean, they're pretty much the same profile of handicap. Utah State -11 and also Charlotte -10. The only thing that scares me here, I'm with you. It's these two teams are past. I'm likely going to get there as well. The only reason I haven't as of yet is laying double digits on the road. How much does that factor into your handicap? If they're up a touchdown, are they really going to look to punch it in again? I love though, circling New Mexico and ODU is just fade city. If you've been fading them, you've been making a lot of money. But how much does laying doubles on the road scare you?
Well, the only thing with the New Mexico game, with Utah, I think just because of the fact that there's some records involved, I think they want to they run it up. I mean, last year they won like 69 to like 10 or some ridiculous number like that. And it's not a revenge game. It's a revenge game for New Mexico, of course, but I just think they have too many challenges offensively and defensively, and I think this game's going to be over by the half. So I'm not even worried about a backdoor, so to speak. I think they'll probably be up by 2 or 3 scores easy by the first half, and I'm thinking hopefully they don't let the foot off the gas, and then they do let the back door happen. But I don't think it's going to be a matter of them having the back door late in the game. I think they're going to be comfortably in front in this game. Same thing with the other game too, with the Old Dominion game. I think that's over by the half too. So maybe 2 first half bets would be even a better look in this game with these 2 games also.
Okay, and Ian, any opinion here on those 2 games? I know you've been involved with those 4 teams at some point this season.
Yeah, I didn't have much on. I didn't bet those 2 games. I wouldn't argue against or for those either way. I didn't bet them, but I'll throw out a couple that the East Carolina is definitely the money line underdog that appeases me a lot. I think that's great value. I don't know if Tulsa shows up in this game today. If they do, maybe they win and cover, but I really don't know. It's a meaningless finale on the road, disappointing season. You've lost so many close games. I think maybe mentally they've tapped out Tulsa potentially. It sure looked like it in that feeble effort against Houston last week. That was a really disappointing game from Tulsa last week in that game. I'm not sure they show up there. I'm looking at, by the way, you would think maybe LSU with the SEC championship coming up. You would think maybe they look ahead to that. Well, not if you hear their quotes from their players. They're facing A&M today, and I bring this game up because they want to kick the snot out of A&M today.
Yeah,
they lost in that crazy game last year, 7 overtimes it was against A&M. They felt they got jobbed a little bit as well in that game. They're talking about they want to dish some payback. I like 2 plays in that game. LSU minus, I laid the number. I don't trust Mond in any big game against a good team. He's been bad in these situations all year. I think LSU, if they have the chance to kick in some extra touchdowns, they will in this spot. And I like the over as well. I could see them getting 48 to 24, something like that. I really think they have a big day offensively, Burrow and company, and his Heisman bandwagon gets even bigger after this game today against A&M. So I like LSU minus the 17 and over 63.5, 64, I believe the total in that game. Let's see, a couple of the Tulane plus the points against SMU. I mean, SMU, that was a brutal loss against Navy last week, and they look like a team that's running out of gas. Tulane getting an underdog price and should be points. It's a high number. Couple CUSA totals I like. I believe Louisiana Tech has Jamar Smith back at quarterback today after the suspensions. That helps. I think that game goes over against UTSA, who's actually starting to score some points, that Texas San Antonio offense. So I think that goes over the total, as does Southern Miss and Florida Atlantic. I think last I heard, Jack Abraham is going to play. There was some concern he may not go due to injury. That's good for the Southern Miss offense with him at quarterback. It's a solid offense, but their defense, Southern Miss, is a little shaky, and Robeson and the Florida Atlantic offense has been pretty good lately for the Owls. So that's another game I think will end up over the total. I like Louisville as well, plus 3.5 against Kentucky. The over in Indiana, Purdue a little bit, but I've scaled back on that just a bit because there is a chance of rain and some wind in West Lafayette, Indiana for that game. But I like both offenses in that Indiana-Purdue game, the old Oak and Bucket. The name of that rivalry game. So I think there's points there, although the weather's it's a little smaller bet because of the weather. And last but not least, guys, best bet. I see Big Ragoo wearing that Florida State shirt. I'm going to the Florida State game for best bet, believe it or not, today. Florida State. And I'm looking at this game over the total of 55. It's gone up a little bit already. The way I see this is that Kendall Briles has had carte blanche with the Florida State play calling and the offense the last few weeks. And what have you seen? Hyper pace, hyper speed offense. They have been going extremely fast. I think that continues here today against Florida. Florida's defense is really good. The concern is, can Blackman or Hornibrook, whoever ends up being the quarterback today for Florida State, can they move it against that defense? But Florida hasn't faced a ton of huge, extreme tempo offenses this year other than LSU. And guess what happened when Florida faced LSU? They got shredded on the defensive side of the football. I'm not going to put Florida State's offense in the LSU category, but I mean, stylistically, Florida State plays the same style of offense, faster pace as LSU, and Florida struggled that day. So I think they'll move the ball. And you look at the other matchup, Florida State doesn't get any sort of pass rush. I think they're terrible in terms of number of sacks they've had this year. That's the only time that Kyle Trask, the Florida quarterback, has struggled, when you get pressure on him. If he has time to throw the football, he's shown he can pick you apart. You know, he's had a really good season for the Florida Gators, and the pass defense for Florida State's lousy. I believe they're 109th in the country in passing yards allowed per game. It's a pass-heavy offense that Dan Mullen has. I think he'll hit some big plays down the field in the passing game against this Florida State defense. I agree with this total going up. So for me, my best bet, Florida State, Florida, over, I believe, 55 is the best number out there right now. We'll go with that for best bet.
All right. At FSU UF over 55. What's that, Big Ragoo?
No, love it. Love that call, Ian. Love that call, my man. I think a lot of action is going to happen in the first half, too, in that game, by the way. So I think the fireworks are going to come early.
And I love the breakdown of Kyle Trask as well. You're right, Ian. He is pinpoint. He's pretty dang accurate when he has time to throw. So with that FSU defensive line really not getting after it too good, I'm with you on that. And for record-keeping purposes, Big Ragoo, I know you threw 2 games out there. Which one was your best bet?
I'm going to take Charlotte as the best bet against Old Dominion.
All right, I like that one. Charlotte minus the 10 at ODU. And I'll finish it up here with a game that has moved. And Ian, I do agree with you in terms of the line moves, not being afraid to go against them, especially recently. I don't know, it'd be interesting to kind of do a little study here on games that have moved, 2.5, 3 points. Of recent, a lot of them have been wrong, man. Yep. I don't know if you've watched that, but a lot of this, so-called, sharp money has not been too sharp there. I actually think that's a term that's getting thrown out a little bit more than it should in terms of the growing mainstream betting out there talking about it. But I'm going to go one that has moved, and mainly I'm going to stick on this just because betting good numbers is always important. But this is a game where I think the alternative line would be a good bet in terms of, I'm talking Marshall. They opened up minus 7.5. I bet them early in the week. I still like them here minus 10. This is one of those games. If you can click down on your sports book, maybe, minus 13.5 at huge plus money, I'd run on that just because this FIU squad, yes, they just did beat Miami. However, if you've been watching this team all year under Butch Davis, they have been an up and down team all year long in Conference USA. This is a team that beat Miami. Yes, they went toe-to-toe with Louisiana Tech, full health. But at the same time, they've gotten blown out by Tulane, blown out by Middle Tennessee when it was inclement weather in that one. It looks like here in Marshall, it's going to be it's at Marshall, excuse me, and it's looking to be under 40 degrees here with rain likely in the forecast. I think FIU goes up there, a bunch of Broward, Dade kids that really aren't used to playing in cold weather and gets blown out. I really like Marshall here. I would lay the 10. That is going to be my best bet as well. So, guys, we got Championship Saturday up next Saturday. We got to wrap it up here. But DJ Big Boss, man, any last words from you?
Just throw in my money line dog play, which we already mentioned, but it's Minnesota. I like Minnesota right there. We flipped that back to the beginning of the season. Minnesota. Wisconsin was not expected to do so well. Now we're in a situation where Minnesota has this Cinderella season. Why not cap it off with a win right here? And I like Minnesota to beat the Badgers today.
I'll throw one more. Throw one more money line underdog. It's worth a shot. Sprinkle a couple bucks. They've only won their last 3 games by no more than 4 points. They've barely gotten by. It's Bedlam. It's a rivalry. Both teams are up for it. Oklahoma State, my Canadian boy, Chuba Hubbard, one of the best running backs in college football from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Watch him run amok against what's become suddenly a very soft Oklahoma defense. I think Oklahoma State's in that game from start to finish.
I like that. My money line underdog. I like Oklahoma State, man. I know plus 13 is nice. I'd sprinkle a little bit on that money line, Ian. I think your Canadian Cowboy goes off today.
That's a good one, Canadian Cowboy. They're from a Canadian cowboy country, Alberta. That's they've got that cowboy kind of vibe going in the province of Alberta. Yeah.
I love betting on the mullet as well. And Big Ragoo, any last words, bro?
That's a great look on that OSU play there. I like that a lot. Hey, next week I guarantee we'll be talking about something different. Whatever's lined up for the 4 championship teams coming up this week, I guarantee you 2 of them will be gone. See you next week.
Oh,
right.
word
Big
is
Ragoo
bond.
with the call there. Well, for DJ, Big Boss, Big Ragoo, Ian Cameron, I am Drew Martin. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Best of luck with your bets. We'll be back next Saturday, Championship Saturday, same time, same place. Come back and join us.
Good luck, everybody.
Cash some tickets.
No more